When you have a transaction involving a condominium, there are actually 4 documents that Maryland Realtors provides in order to comply with the Maryland Condominium Act. First is the condominium resale notice. There's also the condominium resale disclosure certificate from council unit owners, condominium resale disclosure and transmittal of documents from seller as unit owner, and finally, the resale of condominium unit acknowledgement. So starting with the notice, this just informs the buyer of his or her right to receive a whole bunch of information, such as a copy of declaration, bylaws, rules and regulations of the condominium. There are 2 parts to this. There are slightly different disclosure requirements if the condominium project is larger than 7 units or contains 6 or fewer units. But regardless, please be aware of the documents that you are entitled to receive. And please also note at the bottom, this provides that within 7 days following receipt of all of the required information, the buyer has a right to rescind in writing the contract of sale without stating a reason and without any liability. Upon such rescission, buyer would be entitled to get their earnest money deposit back. So all parties sign the acknowledgement or the notice. Next comes the disclosure certificate from the Council of Unit Owners. This document actually comes from the seller and goes to the council or the association that manages the condominium. So here, the condominium association is required to make a series of disclosures. These will impact whether or not the property could be sold. It gives you information about any fees or costs associated with ownership in the regime. It also provides financial information about the association itself, along with an operating budget. It will alert any potential owners of unsatisfied judgments, pending lawsuits, insurance policies, and the like. They also are required to disclose if they have any knowledge of health or building code violations. And they're also required to give you a description of what recreation or other facilities which can be used by the Council of Unit Owners. Next is the document that the seller fills out to provide certain required disclosures. Here, the seller has to say whether or not they know of any alteration to the unit, they know of any violations of health or building codes, and whether or not they have knowledge to any extended lease. And if there is a lease involved, they're required to provide a copy. Again, this is in 2 parts, depending on how large the condo association is. And again, it highlights that the buyer, within 7 days of following receipt of the resale package, has a right to cancel. Finally, there is the condominium acknowledgement. This is the document that is actually only signed by the buyers that just sets forth that all required documents and notices and disclosures have been received by the buyer. So only the buyer signs this one, and again, this sets forth that within 7 days of receipt of all required information, they have a right to rescind the contract. These are all of the required documents with the sale of a condominium.